So everybody's now wondering, why hasn't she been arrested or charged with anything? And there's some rumors that she possibly has struck up some sort of deal with them and that she won't be prosecuted. But I don't think we have concrete evidence of that either way. However, what I'm curious about, just from your perspective, is if there was any sort of immunity deal in play where if she helps cooperate, she won't be, rolled in with the charges, whether it's, murder, the cover up, anything after the fact. What if it does prove that there was more involvement, or perhaps that she did know about the abuse because it was ongoing for so long and she was complicit in that and the child endangerment? Like, is there a way to add on more after the fact, even if there is already a deal in place? And then how does that look, I guess, is my question.
So when it comes to immunity deals, it's almost like it feels like there are no rules. The prosecutor.
All right, so here we go. We're going to get it finally from the lawyer you know. I really love him. I watch the lawyer you know more than you guys know to get breakdowns of the case. For instance, Sarah Boone, etc. What immunity would an immunity deal be released to the public? Possibly. It would be released because they don't want Jen Soto getting beat up by one of you. Some of the moms that I've talked to that wouldn't mind going to jail for doing something to Jen Soto, they would release that and let the public know in many circumstances. All right. What are we saying? It sounds all bad. It's not right no matter how you look at it. Love you, Jay. Keep pushing. It's all messed up that I keep pushing the idea of happening for years. Good to see you, Jeannie. All right. All comments are welcome here, as long as everybody's happy and they're nice. All right. Okay, now we're going to hear his take on Jen's immunity deal. Limited derivative immunity.
Prosecutors can do a lot of different things. They can change them. They can put different language in them. And if they're not going to prosecute, the judge can't really force a prosecutor to prosecute somebody, especially if they're deciding to use them as a witness against the main defendant in this case, which would be the boyfriend. So from the perspective of things changing and when she could potentially be involved or what crimes she could potentially be involved in, as long as they cover everything in an immunity deal, which is a defense attorney's job, right? Where it's like, my client's coming forward. She may have done things in the past she doesn't even know are criminal in nature. She may explain things in the future that we didn't even know about, but we need everything for her to be immune from everything connected to this, her daughter, her boyfriend, before, after, abuse, murder, whatever it is. She needs to be immune from all of it. And if they really need her as a witness or want her as a witness and find that to be the best path to justice against the boyfriend, then they could write all of that in the immunity deal. So whether she talks about originally when it started,
and you all know it's an ex-boyfriend, all right? You guys can correct in the chat if you want to, but we all know, we've been here, we've been covering this. It's finally hitting this plateau of everybody, especially once the details settle down. We're going to see a lot more documentaries from big companies that come out with the Madeline Soto documentary, and we're going to see a lot of things that we're going to need to correct, y'all. So get ready to correct. I love you, Em. I'm glad you love the potato guy. It's an evil potato mascot.
She was fine with it. She condoned it. She knew about it. She didn't think it was that big of a deal or that evil, like you said, maybe with some of the comments, all the way up until if she helped cover it up. All of that could potentially be covered in an immunity deal. And she would have to then testify against him, or at least purport to testify against him, which would then potentially make him take some kind of deal, plead guilty, maybe get life. I know he's looking at the death penalty potentially and so much more with all of the charges that they have, tons of charges with the child abuse and in nature. So there is a potential for them to cover everything in an immunity deal, which I know a lot of people will be mad about, right? And they would think that's not justice.
Absolutely, they would be mad. Now, Criddles, I think that Stefan may have initially groomed Jen to make sure that her mental capacity would be enough that she would trust him, and you let your daughter be on my shoulders in the pool, etc. Yeah, I absolutely think there's an extent to the grooming, but I also think that Jen knows a lot more. And when she says that the sexual part isn't evil, and the Woody Allen comment, that's when I know that she knows more. All right.
For the daughter, that's not justice for Madeline Soto because her mom was in on it. Her mom heard her too. Her mom was supposed to be protecting her and did exactly the opposite. Her mom is potentially even the reason this boyfriend was in her life, right? So there is that aspect that everything could be covered, but every immunity deal is a little bit different. Some immunity deals put in there whatever you say when you're testifying in this situation can't be used against you in the future. So even if you break this immunity deal, even if you lie, even if you do something that's not covered, whatever you tell us can't be used to go get further evidence against you. But the more common immunity deal is if you lie, you're screwed. Everything you've told us we can now use against you. We can prosecute you for everything. If you lied about the cover-up, now you're out. We can go get you for the child abuse. We can get you for child endangerment.
And that's what they've been doing with her. If they can find a lie that's really solid, something that is going to be used towards a case or used towards her arrest, they're going to do it. All right. Now, Tom Hannekers has probably wanted Jen specifically to get access to Maddie. And I think he was doing that with his girl, the girl that he was dating for a little while. And he told the girl, hey, I woke up in the bed next to Maddie and I had a wood. And she was like, what is wrong with you? Now, that woman had children too. And I think he was trying to groom that situation so that he can say, oh, she's into it. Oh, the daughter, he turned over. Maddie was next to him, sleeping next to him, and he had wood. Oh, she's cool with that. Well, once I got past that, I can get to her daughters. Absolutely. I think that's a huge part of it. And Jen still is a big dummy. And yeah, he absolutely knew her weakness. She took the weakness all the way to now when we're still listening to her over and over. And she did lie somewhere in that interrogation. That's why her lawyer cut it off at an hour and like 3 minutes because Jen Soto was desperate for a man. Even her mother said that, but her mother, whatever. All right.
Endangerment. We can get you for accessory after the fact. We can get you for all the crimes we potentially think we can now that we have your own statements on the record against your boyfriend, but that also inculpate you and make you now guilty of certain crimes. So if she does lie, if she tells one story and then it changes, which it seems like you're saying has happened multiple times, if it changes again and they say, okay, now that's it, we're breaking the immunity deal. But the last caveat with lawyers, there's always so many caveats and it depends. They can also say, okay, you lied, so we could break that immunity deal, or you can testify about now that new stuff against him too, and the immunity deal is still good. So it's kind of a fluid situation, almost like a settlement document that as long as both sides agree can continue to evolve and change.
Okay, so let me ask you this. That kind of brought two questions to my mind. One, if they from like the get-go, if when they were looking through the material on his devices, let's just say, and I want to be very clear, this has never been stated and this is not a fact. It's just something that popped in my brain. If they saw an image where, not that she was participating, but say it was like he was doing something with Madeline in the bed and she was on the side of the bed, and they saw that she did have more insight and she knew what was going on, how likely is it that they would strike an immunity deal with somebody like that? Is it strictly because they would need her that badly as a witness against him, or?
And I'm imagining what Pete's going to say here. I'm imagining what he's going to say because we're all going to say the same thing. But we also want her arrested for anything at this point, which at this point, I really don't want her arrested for anything because I've been watching a lot of cases that have chomos and predators, and I'm watching them, the abuse that he did or inflicted upon Maddie is horrific, and getting out in 4 years is not okay. And I'm seeing cases where people did worse than what was done to Maddie, up the same extent until Maddie's life was taken, and they're out and they get 8 years and they're out in 4. So for Jen, if they gave her 5 years and she was only in there for, let's say, 2.5, we would be very upset because they could never charge her for those crimes again. I'm a meme girl. Hello, you're now back to lurk mode. Hugs and prayers to you. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All right, let's listen to this.
I guess that's my question, is more rooted in what are the parameters and the requirements in order to even get an immunity deal? Do they need you that badly that they're willing to do that, even if they think you were complicit?
So it's always a case-by-case basis. The two biggest factors are, number one, how bad do they need them to get the ultimate perpetrator and the person that justice would prevail most by punishing worst, right? So that's the most important thing that they look at. But also, would you be able to prove the guilt of the witness? And would it be a little gray area? Would it be harder? Would people think it was more the husband or the boyfriend and not her? So is it even worth it to go after her? And additionally, in this case, which overcomplicates it, I don't know what the family dynamics are, but it's her daughter, right? So she would technically be the victim's family as well. So
Yep.
who are you getting justice for? Obviously Madeline Soto, but in other cases, if the mom was not involved, she would be pushing for justice for who did this to her daughter. It's a little different in this case, unless, grandparents or aunts. I know the community at large.
And Pete just said something really interesting. She's not pushing the narrative of justice for Madeline Soto. At any point have they or she been pushing anybody in the Soto family? They've been too concerned about Jen Soto and her safety to push for justice for Maddie.